there, it's Bronze and Modern Gods. I'm John.
I'm Richard.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We've got your viewer mail this week. As always, we've got our underrated books of the week, a little show and tell. We've got the 25-year rule this week, Richard, back to 1998, and all sorts of stuff, including our hot book of the week. But first, a reminder, Richard and I will be at Neo Comic Con in North Olmsted this July 30th. That's just a few weeks away, 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We'll join more than 100 comic book dealers, artists, and vendors at Northeast Ohio's most comic-oriented show. With 180 tables of merchandise, 120 of which will be actual booths of comic books. There are a lot of comic books. You can find everything from dollar bin bargains to high-end collectibles that have disappeared from other shows.
And along with us live streaming from the event, you'll get a chance to meet some of the region's best comic creators, along with this year's special guest, the co-creator of The Scarlet Spider and longtime Sonic the Hedgehog artist. I know him best as one of the artists on The Badger from First Comics back in the day, Stephen Butler. All attendees also have a chance to participate in the charity raffle. 4 tables of collectible awesomeness donated by the best dealers and vendors from Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Indiana. This is a Rust Belt-a-palooza. With the best part, Richard, 100% of the proceeds go to the local Animal Protective League. Yes. So join Richard and I at Neo Comic Con this July 30th. That's neocomiccon.com for all the info. It's coming up like soon. We've been promoting this for a while, and it's actually happening now.
Yeah, it's great. To me, it's the highlight of the comic book season here in the Cleveland area. So definitely looking forward to this.
All right, moving on to our hot book of the week, like hellfire hot, Richard. It's what?
Daredevil number 270.
This is the first appearance of who?
Of Blackheart.
Blackheart, as in Joan Jett and the
Blackheart.
Okay, Blackheart is the son of Mephisto.
Uh-huh.
Who's Blackheart's mom? Do we know? Is that ever revealed?
I don't think she has revealed herself.
Okay, I just, a Blackheart, whatever. Here's the deal for me. I love this run of Daredevil by Ann Nocenti. Have you ever read this run?
No, I stopped after Frank Miller.
Yeah, see, that's the mistake everybody made. Just imagine having to take on this book after Frank Miller leaves. I mean, she must have had the arrogance of youth on her side or something. Most people would be terrified. She didn't care. She made it her own. It was very strange, very left wing, I would have to say, in a lot of respects. You had stories about the environment. You had Daredevil fighting a vacuum cleaner to the death.
All right. Well, apparently he survived, so sorry.
During Inferno, so, yeah, exactly. And here you have the first appearance of Blackheart. Lots of rumors about Mephisto and coming to the MCU. We've heard this 8 billion times. So, caveat emptor.
Do you think where there's smoke, there's fire, that we're actually going to see Mephisto at some point?
I don't know. Who knows at this point? Is there ever going to be another MCU movie? That's the other question. They're not exactly setting the universe on fire right now. As far as Daredevil 270, high-grade raws are selling on eBay now for $25 to $30. 90-day average for a CGC 9.8, it's $212. Sounds good until you remember that that's down from $414 in 2021 in the great comic boom of 2021. So, buyer beware. If you like Daredevil, you like Blackheart, get the book. If you're looking to make $1 billion on the Blackheart spec when Mephisto comes to the MCU, don't.
Yeah, remember, it's specking on villains is a dicey game.
Yes, unless it's the Joker.
Yeah, or Doom.
When that screen changes, if you're watching on YouTube, it's time for show and tell. I need to do a little show and tell intro, like a little song and a graphic or something. I'll get right on that. I have all this time in the world. Do you have something? Do you have a couple things?
You know what? I've been saving my money because San Diego is coming up. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to some opportunities to find stuff that you don't find at other places. So I haven't bought anything big, but I have a stack of stuff that I don't pass on. For example, um, I'm a big fan of Dawn, so I found this Dawn book, got it at a good price. It's not worth a whole lot. This is kind of a nostalgia thing for me. Evan was used to live with Evan, a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, friend of the show, sometimes co-host. Um, and he had a Dawn statue. It was beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful statue. And he's also a big comic book guy, so we we um, we obsessed over her for a while. So yeah, that book is always something. If I see it, it's inexpensive. I'll pick it up.
What issue is it? What is it?
This is issue number 1.
Of Cry for Dawn or just Dawn?
Just Dawn. It's not the
Just
Cry for Dawn series.
just Dawn.
Just Dawn.
All right. Excellent. Kind of in that gothic vein, I have a new shipment came from CGC. We were talking about it last week. I sent a whole bunch of stuff in different tiers. This was the high value tier that I sent in. Came back this week.
Yeah.
Dark Shadows number 1, 8.0. Really
Finally
glad
got it.
finally got it. White pages with the poster. All the things I wanted. 8.0, I was hoping for an 8.5. I'll take an 8.0. I can kind of see what they're talking about. There's a couple of well, really there's one barely color breaking bend right here in this corner. You can't even see it unless you're close up on the book. The great news about these CGC submissions that I've gotten back. Now, when you go in and you look at your submissions, or if anybody else goes in and they look at the certification number, there's now a scan of the
Yeah.
front and the back cover included, which I didn't pay for, and they're there. So, hallelujah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And CGC, for those don't know, charges you $5 for the scans if you get them done while you get the book graded. Now I've never paid that, so I don't know what resolution those scans that you get that you pay for are. But these are decent sized pictures. You click on you go to the CGC uh, code or ID and it will display there and as part of the listing. You click on them, and it will show you a larger image of it. It's great. I'm enthused because it helps. I think with recognition of the comics and the grades. I I would use it if you have a book and you want to get it graded. Go and find the book that is around where you think the book is graded at. Find a book and then look at the images associated with it and compare it to the book you want to send in, and maybe that'll help you get some idea of where that book is going to come in.
Oh, to help with grading, you want
Yeah.
to do a
Mhm.
comparison. I was also thinking this will help with all the counterfeiting that's been happening with the broken slabs and people exchanging books and everything.
Mhm.
This is one way to, if you see a listing on eBay or something, you can go look up the certification number and make sure it's the same book.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's also, we get, artificial intelligence is something out there that's powerful, and they're opening themselves up to somebody scanning in all these images of comic books and using them for some other thing, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Say that again. I'm writing this down.
I, I
What?
I actually for a long time have thought CGC scans your, whether you pay for it or not, they scan your books front and back, and they have this huge database of images. I would, why not? It's free. You have the whole huge database of images of different comic books that have been graded to a certain, from from nothing to 10. So that's exactly the kind of information a large language model or an artificial intelligence could use to do maybe a first pass at grading. So you could in the future take a model that's been trained on that huge database, put a book under a camera, and the camera take a picture of the book, and then it compares it to its database and says, this book is an 8.0, and then you pass it on to the actual grader who now has context on that book and can focus it on the specifics of what the problems with that book are.
Wonder if that's what's happening right now.
I Definitely. Hey, CGC, if you want to hire me to be able to be in charge of that effort, I would be happy to do so.
But he ain't moving to Florida. What is your next book?
Next book is another set of books that I always buy because I, it's amazing how nostalgia drives you. I find these books here,
Ah,
Robotech. Okay, so we offline we were talking about manga. This is one of my um, one of my weaknesses. I remember the original Robotech series on TV, and it was an amazing series. And I think it kind of went off the rails a little bit in some of the later ones, but you can get these books got them inexpensively, and they're a great read. If you haven't read the comics are actually really good. So I got these for they're labeled $3 a piece. I got them for half of that, and
nice.
this is one of the problems with comic book collecting, is you come across something like this and you can't pass it up. Well, now it has a home in your house, right? You've got to find some place to store it and take care of it, and um, yeah.
I'm like that with Weird War Tales. I don't even know. I should use the Wacom app to enter them all. I haven't done that yet, but I don't even know what issues I have, and I just buy them every time I see them. And I'm sure I have like 5 copies of issue 34. Uh, well, speaking of war, more of my slabs came in this week. I've shown this one on the show before, and it's back, and it is War Adventures number 12.
Yeah.
Um, I have a little problem with how they slab the book. Look at the cover.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I did press this. I did not do a spine realignment. I should go look and see if it was like that when I sent it in. I did take a picture of it beforehand,
Hmm.
you know, but I don't remember it being off like that. I did
Curious.
I thought it was going to get a 3540, so I'm happy with the 40 off-white pages. So I'm not too concerned with the unevenness of the cover there. It probably is what it is, but what a great cover, huh?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Here's a question. This is something else you can use those images for. If you go look at the images that CGC took before they shipped it, do
Mm,
you see that same issue with it, or is it something that happened in transit?
I don't know if they'd ever do that. That opens them up to
No, at least gives you an idea, of was it graded that way?
right.
Did it slip in the holder?
You know what? Either way, I thought it was going to be a 40 max, so it came back a 40. I'm
Right.
not gonna fuss too much over it. It's just a great cover to display.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. What's your next one?
Next, one of my favorite books from 2019, 2020, Little Bird.
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if you read this or not.
Yes. You on your recommendation, you had it for
Oh,
one of your underrated books of the week,
yeah.
like years ago.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful series. It's only 6 issues. It's a short series. The artwork is exemplary. It's very, very unique, and the story is great. These are $2 a piece. I already have a full collection, a full set, but
Mhm.
I'm going to having extras because you do that when you're a comic book nerd.
Obsessive.
Yeah, good series. Little Bird, if you come across it, read it. It's one of my favorite stories of a couple years ago.
Excellent. My last show and tell for this week came from that high value submission, and it is the second to last book I needed for my complete run of Foxhole. This is
Wow.
Foxhole number 6. I just need a number 7 now. And this is the one, it came back a 4.5 off white pages. Super happy with that. It's a Charlton. So, you know about the production values there. What I was worried about this book when I sent it in, I even shared it on Instagram a couple months ago. This top here had kind of like a waffle pattern to it,
Hmm.
where I thought maybe someone tried to press it with Teflon paper and it
Mm.
left like a waffle impression. So I tried, tack ironing it out, rollerball, everything. And then I thought, all right, it's not coming out. I'm just going to roll the dice and send it in. And it came back with uh, no
Okay.
canvassing,
Oh, okay.
the notes. So several people in that Instagram post told me, that's actually the Charlton paper stock from back then.
That bad?
That was that bad, and it looks like they're right. I'm looking now, and there it is. But super happy. For people that don't know about Foxhole, it was Simon and Kirby, Prize Comics, their company, where they tried to go on their own, and then they went out of business with Foxhole issue 5. They had 2 issues complete when they went out of business, so they sold the whole lot to Charlton, and Charlton put out those final 2 issues, and this is the first Charlton issue. Very scarce book, very desirable book,
Mhm.
and just amazing Kirby art.
And what year is that?
That is 1955,
So Korean War is what it's depicting on the cover.
and you got your little approved by the Comic Code Authority at this point.
Not so little. They seem to be pretty prominent on the cover.
Hi, parents. We're safe for your kids.
Yeah, we're full of people being shot, but this is
Yeah.
totally fine.
I have some more submission stuff, but I'm going to save it. I don't want to show it all in 1 week. Do you have anything else?
Not really. Just I've like you, when I come across something, I pick it up, but I don't have anything significant.
We've both been saving our shekels for convention season 2,
Yeah.
starting in a couple of weeks at San Diego Comic Con, but more of that later, because right now it's time for viewer mail.
You've got mail.
My first piece of viewer mail comes to us at our email address at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from Sean Schreiner. Sean writes, "Hello, John and Richard. I've been buying comics off and on from my LCS just over a decade now, just picking up things that look cool and interesting to read. Lately, I've become more interested in collecting some higher value books, graded or raw. I started doing some research online and came across your show about a month ago, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it." Well, thank you, Sean.
Oh, thank you.
"Would you be able to recommend the best places to research about specific series and issues? Things to look out for, inserts that could be missing, known defects, how to tell the differences between print runs, etc. And is there a best place to go to check on comic values, or do you just have to check multiple different sellers and hope they don't lead you wrong? Thank you for making entertaining and informative content, Sean." Thank you, Sean. Um, yeah, short answer, no. There's no one way of finding out all this info in one easy stop. In an accurate way, some people swear by Go Collect for values. Some people swear by Key Collector. Some people swear by GPA. I tend to do a little both. I look at GPA for graded slabbed values, and then I'll look at eBay sold sales for raw values. Those are the 2 most accurate barometers you're going to get, I believe. GPA is even, not 100% because sometimes a best offer was accepted as opposed to the price that's in there. Sometimes there's fraud. Someone bid a book up and won the auction, but then didn't pay. And I don't believe GPA removes that info if that's the case. So, as far as things about, ASM 238 has tattoos, you have to check for that. You just got to learn and go. Google's your friend. Google a book. You're going to find these things out as you go along. I think experience is your best teacher, Sean, unfortunately.
I will say Key Collector does have information. It's an inexpensive app, and I've always found it valuable. And you can use it to find out about things like 238. It will tell you about the tattoos, but the pricing information, the valuation isn't as reliable. It's more of a ballpark. GPA, as John mentioned, GPAanalysis.com is the website. It costs you $10 a month, and if you use it a lot, it's valuable. If not, I'd probably go and download the Shortbox app.
Oh, yeah.
Shortbox also does pricing in it, and it's free, and you can find out they use, just like John mentioned, they used eBay sales, recent eBay sales, to determine valuation, and I find their values are pretty accurate. People buy and sell books based on those values every day off the Shortbox app. So definitely use that. But like John says, there really isn't any one stop shop for information. You kind of have to piece it together. Looking at forums, reading Instagram.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of information and no real central place for it, unfortunately.
Great point about the Shortbox tab. I completely forgot that they added that pricing info in there and that it's free. So that's that's one place to start. What is your first piece of viewer mail?
My first piece of viewer mail is from a YouTube commenter from NF7Mate. Gru has always been wonderfully independent. Even when it was published under Marvel's Epic imprint, it remained wholly owned by Sergio Aragonés. By the way, a brand new Gru story will be out at your LCS this Wednesday, July 12th. If your LCS doesn't order any, you should find the owner and do what Gru does best.
What? Eat cheese dip?
Oh, that's awesome! Thank you so much. I did not know that. I didn't see it that it was coming up. I will definitely pick up a copy because Gru is one of those characters that I grew up with, and it's great to find out that Sergio is still doing stories for it. Yeah, he was one of those creators who kept his rights and therefore kept ownership of his property, and hats off to him. I think it's a great character, and I look forward to more stories from Gru.
You grew up with Gru? Did you actually say that?
I actually did say that, didn't I? And I
I
didn't even mean it.
I know. I love Gru. I've been chasing. I've completed a Pacific Comics run of Gru. The
Oh,
first issue
awesome.
in high
Mhm,
grade. I got the Eclipse special. I need to start working on my Epic run. I know it's a lot of issues, and I know that last year, the lower print run are going to be tough. But I that's one of the books that I just read for years and years, and I
mhm.
really enjoyed it. Great call out there, NF7 mate. My next piece of viewer mail, also from our email at bronzeandmoderngods at gmail.com from Steve V. Steve Vi?
Oh, wow.
Oh, hi, guys. Just watched your new episode and was shocked. Didn't look that bad. Um, oh, that's not why. I bought a copy of Margie 36 from mycomicshop.com last year for $38.50.
Oh, rub it in.
I had no idea why it was so cheap, so I scooped it up fast as humanly possible. It was estimated to be a 5.0 on the site. When I got it, I immediately sent it to CGC. I had them clean and press it. I know. And it came back an 8.0.
Oh, he's rubbing it in, John.
Pics are attached to prove my story, but I really have no idea how this happened. The only downside was I got it graded right before they started listing Stan's appearance in the notes. Anywho, love the show. You guys are the best in the biz, Steve. P.S. I also have a crazy story about Tip Top Comics 173, but that's for another time. Look, Mr. V,
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy for you. No, I think it's great. I think what happened, I wonder if somebody commissioned my comic shop to sell that for them and they
Yeah.
set the price and my comic shop didn't set the price. And dude, you jumped on it. Good on you. 8.0. I will happily trade my 3.5 slab with the Stan Lee notation on the label for your 8.0 without it.
My comic shop is one of those places, it's not a honey hole, but there are definitely opportunities that come up there if I'm
Apparently.
looking for a book. Yeah, because like you mentioned, they do commissions. So sometimes people don't update the value of their commissions over time. And what happens is it's a lower value a year ago and it's been sitting there languishing. And now all of a sudden it's a hot book or at least has more value associated. You can sneak in. That's where I got my, what was it? Transformers #1. I got it
Yeah.
off of, I got it for $500 at the time,
Wow.
which was $300 under the valuation because somebody wasn't paying attention.
All right. Margie 36 forever. What is your next piece of your mail, Richard?
My next piece is also a YouTube comment. This is from El Blanco 7605. Yes, another bondage cover of the week. John, did you happen to bring a bondage cover of the week to this week?
I did, but I'm saving it for later. You'll see why.
Oh, okay. So we'll have to wait.
Yes.
Another huge indie key is Bow #1. I am still on the hunt for a copy. You and me both. I'm waiting to find the right first print. Since the Netflix deal fell through, prices have started to fall. So maybe a copy is in my future. Well, thank you for letting me know. I wasn't aware the Netflix. I had heard it had been optioned, and the fact that it
No,
has
it's
dropped
over.
out of the option. That's good for us. Although I would have loved to have seen an animated version of Bone. Yeah, bone is another, as you say, it's another one of the big keys we don't talk about as much as I think it deserves to be talked about.
I think it's because I have the most heartbreaking story having to do with Bone. Bone number one in particular, and all of the first 10 to 12 issues. When Bone came out, I was working at Adventure Comics and Cards in Monterey slash Salinas, California. Two locations, two locations. And our store manager in Salinas, Dave, hi Dave, if you're out there, I miss you. Let's catch up in San Diego sometime. Um, he would order books like this, like large quantities. He was very supportive of indies, and I think I've told the story about how he over ordered on Valiants when they came out, and that's how I got all those first prints of Harbinger One and all those tough to find books at the time for Valiant. He ordered so many Bone number ones. We had them forever, and I had a stack of first prints of 1 through 10 probably, and I had them forever. And then when I sold my collection, I sold them all. And this is when Bone was maybe like a Wizard had it like for maybe $100 book, for number one. I didn't know it was going to be a $3,000 book one day.
You could have a stack of it.
I remember that back cover. That back cover is almost all black and glossy, and it just picks up every imperfection. That's why 9.8s are so expensive. But Bone is another heartbreaker for me. I look back at my past, and I'm like, ugh.
Well,
All
that's two right in a row here
right,
for you,
no,
Seven.
bad.
Bad memories.
I'm getting beat up this week. My next piece of viewer mail is also from our Gmail, bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com. Our friend Ariel Asandarte, who writes, speaking of San Diego, John and Richard, what are your plans for San Diego Comic-Con? I hope to see you guys so I can say hi. Last year, I found John in the convention hall where he was posting live video. I ran over to say hi when I realized it was him, and I was just a few aisles away. Your show has enlightened me on different aspects of the hobby we all love, and I thank you for that. Thanks, Ariel. Yes, I remember that I was streaming live, and this guy runs up to me in the middle of the live stream, and he tackles me, and he starts kicking me in the gut. No, that wasn't you. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be there. Richard arrives next week.
Yeah, that's
No, we come on Wednesday. You're coming on Wednesday, right?
oh, actually, we're coming on Tuesday. We're coming in Tuesday, staying in a hotel Tuesday night, and then Wednesday we're all driving down to San Diego.
You're staying at a hotel up here by me?
Yeah,
Where?
I don't remember where. I'm assuming it's a Hilton since that's typically where we stay.
All right. Well, good to know. Maybe we'll have a live stream that night. Who knows?
That'd be fun.
But yes, we're Richard and I will be down there. The good news is we're all staying downtown in downtown San Diego this time, so very easy to go back and forth as opposed to having to take the shuttle like we used to. So if you guys are going to be at San Diego Comic Con in 2 weeks, uh, look for us, hit us up, stop us. Don't be shy. We love meeting you guys.
Mhm.
We have no airs about us. We're not highfalutin in the least.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Where it's going to be John and myself and our mutual friend Evan is also going to be attending. So and all of our spouses. So it's going to be fun.
We're burying the lead, though. Not only are we going to be at Comic Con, we're going to be on a panel at
Mhm.
Comic Con. Strangely enough, a panel called How to Start a Comic Book YouTube Channel. Like we would know anything about that. We're going to be joining Passport Comics, Hood Rat Podcast, Swaggle House, Mickey from Swaggle House Comics, and Richard and myself. We will share how and why we started our YouTube channels. We're going to discuss our passions for comic books and what it took to get our channels up and running. And it's going to be moderated by Momo Comics 80, aka Robert Moreno. And it's going to be Friday, July 21st at Comic Con, 4 p.m. at the Neil Morgan Auditorium at the San Diego Central Library, right by Comic Con, right outside of the convention center. Again, that's Friday, July 21st, 4 o'clock. And I will have all this information in the description of the podcast below.
I'm excited. This is my first panel. You did a panel for the last Comic Con, right?
I did same topic. We did it last year, and we're doing it again. And this time, you get to be there, and you get to tell everybody your perspective as opposed to me rattling on like I am now. What is your last piece of viewer mail?
My last piece is from another commenter, 300 Baud, which to my heart. I don't understand the custom labels thing for CGC. If you have a slab Amazing Spider-Man book with a giant Spider-Man on the actual cover, what is the point of having a tiny Spider-Man on the grading label?
Hiding
Seems
behind the hologram.
Yeah, it seems redundant and superfluous. It is actually very much redundant and superfluous. I can't gainsay that. And for most books, I don't bother with it. But sometimes it's just cool to have that extra little bling. You know, you have 500 slabs and they're all the same blue and there's nothing breaking up the monotony of it. And then you get, I've got some Doctor Doom slabs. They have Doctor Doom on the cover on the label, and it stands out and it makes a little bit of difference. My Ultimate Fallout 4, I've got Spider-Man on the cover on the label because it calls it out. It's just definitely not necessary, and frankly, for the most part, I don't really care when I'm buying a book if it has the label on it or not. But if it does have it, that might be cool. But for books that I want it to have on, the label, I definitely will, you know, you know, my early Fantastic Fours, for example, I would put the Fantastic Four label on it just because it looks cool and it differentiates those books. So, like everything else in the hobby, people collect in the way that they collect, and it's very personal, it's very individual. Some people find value in it, some people don't, and that's perfectly fine.
Aesthetics aside, 300 baud. I will say this as someone who buys moderns to slab them and flip them and get rid of them. Um, the custom label has a premium. I sell it a lot faster. If I have a Miles book and it's got a Miles label on it, it's out the door the minute I try to sell it. Whereas if it doesn't have a Miles label, I'll sell it eventually. But it does seem to give people a little kick in the keister for some reason when it comes to buying. I don't know
That
why.
little again, it breaks up that field of blue. I mean, if you look at the comic behind me, is just one row of blue comics, and then you see that Ultimate Fallout with Spider-Man on the cover, and it pulls your eye. So there is that little bit of extra oomph to it. It's not worth a whole lot, but it's the difference between you know everything else that's on the shelf in that one particular book.
Speaking of extra oomph, Richard, we've been really good about transitions lately. This is not one of those weeks because it is time for the 25-year rule. That was my meta segue. Do you like
Okay,
that?
that
Got
was that
with
is
it.
yes, the fourth wall breaking segue. I get it.
They're not all winners, people. This week, we go back to 1998 for the 25-year rule, as we always do. The 25-year rule is when that nostalgia kicks in 25 years after your formative experience and you want to go back and rebuy the books that shaped you. This week, we talk about Deadpool Death 98. This was one of two Deadpool annuals that year, the other one being Daredevil Deadpool 98. Deadpool Death 98 takes place between issues 17 and 18 of the classic Joe Kelly run of Deadpool. I am the last Deadpool fan in the world. I am not a Deadpool fan, whatever. However, Joe Kelly's Deadpool, I read that thing religiously. It was fantastic. It was really good. When Joe Kelly left, a lot of the joy went with him. A lot of the inventiveness of the character went with him. I think Christopher Priest had a little nice run there afterwards. But yeah, never really got back into Deadpool. In this annual, Deadpool is killed by Ajax, his archenemy. Then he flashes back to his origin. Get to a little expanded version of Deadpool's origin here. He then basically decides to reject his girlfriend Death. No thanks. And he goes back to life to kill Ajax, the guy who killed him. It was a gutsy move at this point to have annuals for both Daredevil and Deadpool because they were not exactly setting the sales charts on fire. Both books were near the bottom of Marvel's sales ladder at this time. And can you believe there was a time, Richard, when Deadpool's title was barely scraping by month to month?
Oh, I definitely believe it. Deadpool people forget Deadpool on for movies is not the Deadpool for comics. There is definitely a difference between the two characters. So while Reynolds has done an amazing job with the movies, it's not really the comics.
I remember this time, Deadpool and I think Spider Girl were kind of almost contemporaneous at this point, and they were each like Spider Girl and Deadpool getting canceled in 2 issues, and then the fans would get angry on the internet, and they'd renew it for another 6 issues and see how it goes. Deadpool, I think the Deadpool getting canceled, the drums beating of Deadpool getting canceled started around issue 17 or 18, and they beat all the way to the end. I think issue 61 or so is where it finally kicked the bucket. A CGC 9.8 of Deadpool Death sold last month for $89. That is way down from $295 in the comic boom of 2021.
Oh, we were so young then.
We were so rich then. What happened?
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, we're broke compared to then.
There was money falling from the sky back then, but now everybody's a little smarter with their money. Susie Orman reference underrated books of the week. Richard, what is your underrated book this week?
Oh, this is a nostalgia pull for me from 1983, X-Men number 169, which was the first appearance of Callisto and the Morlocks. Do you remember the X-Men run at this point?
Oh God, yeah. I loved Paul Smith. I
Yeah,
know people are I didn't realize. I thought everybody because you and me love Paul Smith. You and I, sorry, English great. Uh People are really split about Paul Smith. I never did you realize some people really hate Paul Smith?
I was not aware. No, it's just a part of. I mean, his books were this run was amazing. This whole run, I remember it was the focus of my run. I would get my pull list, I'll get my pull box because at the time I had basically a drawer full of comics that I would get. And it was the first book I read because X-Men has always been my primary book, and this has always been an important book to me. I'm surprised people have some hate for Paul. That's amazing.
This story also all right, I'm trying to remember it. So you guys forgive me. My memory might be cloudy. Didn't they kidnap the angel? And
Yeah,
wasn't the reason they kidnapped the angel because he was pretty?
yeah. Whole Archangel arc. Yeah, it all happens around here. I think that he was kidnapped in 167. I think is when it started.
Yeah, but they take him down to the tunnels and
Right,
they
right.
cut his feathers off, and it wasn't it because he represented everything that was gorgeous and beautiful, and that's why the Morlocks hated him. It just seemed like a really thin premise for Claremont to get rid of the Angel, a nothing character.
The angel was kind of a terrible character. He
Wait,
could
guys, he flies.
yeah. Look, we're underwater. Oh, he's pretty much useless.
Yeah,
No, yeah, these characters play an important part in X-Men, mythos from this point on. Callisto is a character that runs throughout stories, in the future. Caliban, who didn't his first appearance wasn't here; it was in 148, but he has a really strong interaction here. He later becomes Pestilence. I mean, these characters are big characters. Kitty Pryde is in this. This is back when Kitty Pryde was Sprite. Uh, uh, she was so annoying back in this.
it beats being called Mellow Yellow.
Uh, um, yeah, Kitty Pryde promises to marry Callisto. There's this whole thing with her and Caliban, and anyway, it's a great story. It's a continuation of or a part of a longer arc. But if you're a fan of Claremont's X-Men, you do yourself a favor and read this series because it is definitely worth it. You've also got things like the Black King is in here, so you've got Hellfire Club is a part of this, which is to me one of my favorite villain organizations. Um, Definitely well worth it. 98 had sold earlier this year for $177, so it's not really that expensive. There are Canadian and newsstand variants, although I don't think CGC calls out the newsstands. as newsstands, it's strange because when I look at the
Should now, maybe going forward. They won't
yeah,
call it, they won't call it out in the census. That's the problem.
yeah, that's the problem because if I look in GPA, there's a newsstand entry, but if you look at the
Right.
census, there is no newsstand.
Right.
There are 875 books on the census for the direct, but only 23 of the Canadian price variants. So those Canadian price variants are pretty rare. So if you come across one, definitely pick it up. Great book, great run. X-Men of all this whole era, X-Men up to 200, to me are just no-brainer buys because they're just great stories and I think books that have potential value.
Canadian friends that listen to the show, are Canadian variants scarce up there, or are they everywhere? I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question.
Because if I was in Canada, I'd be slabbing Canadian variants all day long and selling them to these suckers down south. Same thing in Australia. Where's Charlie Dog? Charlie Dog, just go buy all the Australian variants and sell them to people here. Maybe the postage doesn't make it worth it. Who knows? My underrated book this week is this one. It is Submariner number 57. This is the first appearance of Venus since her title was canceled in the Golden Age in the 50s.
Is that her on the cover?
That's her on the cover. It
Wow.
also doubles as our bondage cover of the week.
Woohoo!
There's Venus all trussed up, headlights ablazing, a shark, submariner, some war god dude, Bill Everett at his best. Now this is the first appearance of Venus since the Golden Age in continuity. I say that because there was a Bill Everett Venus reprint and a new pinup in Marvel Spotlight that was published a year before this. A little caveat there on this. Venus next appeared years later, like 3 years later, in Champions #1, aka one of the greatest comic books ever published.
Wow, really?
Hercules. It's the leader of the Champions. But yeah, there was a whole story that started off Champions with the Ares, the war god, and Venus and stuff like that. CGC 9.8 of Submariner 57 sold in December for $1,000.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of shocking until you realize this is an extremely tough book in grade. You have this black cover,
Mm.
all it picks up everything, and also the fact that Submariner was such a dead title for back issues for so many years, for decades. Nobody was interested in picking up back issues of Submariner, so they were relegated to dollar boxes, quarter bins, you name it. But Submariner 57, a two for this week, my underrated book of the week, plus our bondage cover of the week.
We need some bondage sound effect to go along with the bondage cover. That's exactly what I was thinking. Uh,
I don't know if the whip crack is appropriate, but maybe something. We'll think of something. We'll workshop it, everybody. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. And if you're not following us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods, please do so, especially in the next few weeks when we'll be live streaming from convention floors. Hit this like on this video, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit yourself if you're feeling sleepy. Richard, we'll see you next time.
John, nice seeing you. Everybody stay safe.